Welcome back to another episode of Can You Believe That? We're hoping you guys are saying that as we're going through these different episodes. Once you learn the truth behind a lot of these different thinkings and different cultures, that you can say to yourself, can you believe that? So I'm actually the Car Wizard. You guys have seen me on YouTube on the channel Car Wizard, Hoovie's Garage, multiple different places. And then we have the guru of the paranormal world is Thomas Durant.
Me?
Yes, that's you.
I don't know about guru. Well, I mean, unless you mean love guru of the paranormal.
Oh, the love guru.
My wife would never agree to me saying that on camera. But here we are, so too late, huh?
Well, today we're going to talk about the opposite of love. We're going to talk about Satan.
Yes, the dark one, the liar, the deceiver.
And you miss the old names.
We're going to talk about today is the different understandings and definition. People talk about devil this and demon that. But Satan, what is Satan? Everybody has this idea of a goat-legged creature with horns and has maybe a trident or some sort of a spear or something in their hand. Some people think it was just some sort of a dark spirit or a silhouette or something like that. In the Christian world, and this is really going to be something, can you believe that, is I'm going to describe him to you guys, and all the other ideas will go out the window of who he is, what he looks like, and what he does, what he can and can't do. But at one time, believe it or not, Satan was not a bad guy. His name wasn't even Satan. It was Lucifer. And he was the most beautiful angel in heaven. In fact, he was one of the highest regarded angels in all of the angels. Now, what his job was there was basically like you see in a church, you have the worship leader, the guy that does the singing and gets everybody going, excited for the sermon. That's basically what he did. He was the worship leader for heaven. He directed all of the music. And we'll get more into that sometime in another episode, Satan's influence on music, because that's exactly his mastery. So he's doing these things, all the praise that these angels are giving are supposed to go through Lucifer and then be directed to God. And he receives those praises and those songs and the worship. But he started practicing something, and this is kind of in a weird time in heaven where for some reason, I don't know why, that God had given a little bit of free will to the angels. And he practices something called merchandising. It's just like in a store.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made. Spaceballs the t-shirt, Spaceballs the coloring book, Spaceballs the lunchbox, Spaceballs the flamethrower. The kids love this one.
The praise, worship, glory, everything that's coming from the angels is supposed to be 100% through Lucifer and 100% to God. But Satan was keeping some of it for himself.
He was skimming off the top?
He was skimming off the top. He was getting very conceited. He was like, what about worship from me? I'm the most beautiful angel here.
It's mine, you understand? Mine, all mine!
And we're getting to the point now where how did Satan arrive into hell? And there's another story where Jesus is talking to Hiram. He's a king in the Bible. He's speaking to him, but he's actually speaking to the devil. And he says, I was there that day that when you sinned, it was like a flash of lightning. I saw you fall like lightning to hell. You were cast out that fast, and a third of the angels went with him. There was no talking about it. There was no going to court. Let's talk it over. Let's discuss it. Let's figure out if this was a wrongdoing or if blah, blah, blah. No, it was boom, you're out. Done. There he resides now, doing all the torment that he does. But Tommy, I've heard multiple different cultures have referred to demons or the devil or devils, but they're not even referring to the Christian religion. So what are their thoughts on it?
Well, so we've talked about these guys in the past. The Zoroastrians were one of the first belief systems to talk about an ultimate good and evil. There is a version of Satan in their belief system. It's just not called the same thing.
Okay.
Now, if you go to early Jewish mysticism, a lot of the Jewish scholars couldn't believe that there was an antithesis to God because God is all powerful. God is everything. Everything is God.
Mhm.
So there can't be no anti-God. That was their take on it for quite a while. I mean, eventually they started opening up to that idea that there was some other force that was causing problems.
Mm-hmm.
But they did, however, have the word shaitan or shaitan, which
Okay.
in the old Hebrew text, early Bibles, basically meant the adversary or the accuser. I mean, adversary is that's, I think, what everybody went with. But I like the idea of the accuser because God would have to allow this entity to exist, right?
And he does, yes.
And he does. Job lost everything because Satan was there to test his faith. Well, if that's the case, like, is he the adversary or was he just making sure that Job wasn't just a fair weather follower of God? You know, everything was great for him, but then you
Mm-hmm.
take all that away. You put him through all this torment and he still loved and believed in God.
Yeah.
To me, that feels like Satan was more of a prosecutor in a court case to be like, I don't know if this guy's guilty, but I'm going to throw everything at him. And if he's guilty in the end, then he can go to jail or be with me in hell. If not, then he deserves to go to heaven.
You may hold dominion over the nether regions, but I run this court. Is that clear?
Yes, Your Honor.
But that was like kind of the origins, from what I could tell, of Satan himself. And then obviously Dante's Inferno and Paradise Lost are two books from the 15 to 1600s that then sort of gave more of a physical features to who this being Satan was,
Right.
that they fell from heaven. But truthfully, like, this is where you and I are going to agree. Like, I do believe there is an entity called Satan. And I've met plenty of people from wide range of belief systems. Some will call themselves Luciferians because they worship Lucifer, the morning star angel,
Yes.
as an entity that exerted their will and asked questions. Then
Mhm.
I've also met Satanists who do believe in Satan and will freely give their souls up to Satan. And
Right.
it's a very complicated thing. And it's funny that it all just comes down to this one word and where this one word started. So it's kind of a crazy subject, but I don't want to get us off track, Wizard. You're doing a great job. Like, keep telling me, tell me who Satan is. Keep telling me.
So yeah, you mentioned the accuser. That's definitely one of the descriptions in the Bible, the accuser of the brethren, the liar, deceiver, quite frequently. But you're right. Yes, God does use Satan and his demons to test us, to train us, to basically it's called like purification through fire, like gold is purified through fire. After it's done being burned and cleaned, all the impurities are gone, then it's pure gold. That's kind of the idea. And a lot of people say, why would God give him this power to do this or that? And he actually uses it. Just like in the story of Job you just mentioned. And there's this misconception that like maybe Satan is just as powerful as God, or maybe a little bit less powerful than God. But here's the thing: in the story of Job, Satan was not able to just attack Job and go after it. Then this kind of like what we've talked about in previous episodes, there's rules in the spirit world. It says in the book of Job that he went to a certain place where he could speak to God. It says, this is your servant Job. He's so good. He's so great. But I guarantee you, if I take everything from him, he'll curse your name. And God says, perfect. Do it. Go for it. Just think about that for a minute. Think about the dynamics. Satan himself had to have permission from God.
Right.
And that works that way in all human beings. He can't just walk through the door and slash your throat. There has to be steps involved, permission granted. There has to be a lot of different things done before actions can be taken. But on the other side of the fence, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. Satan and his demons absolutely hate God. They hate humanity because God called us his perfect creation, his best creation. And they're like, no, that should have been us. That really pisses us off. We hate these humans. We'd like to see them all burn. I'm going to take as many of them as I can with me where I'm at.
All I want to know is, who's coming, man? Who's coming with me? Huh?
So there is a genuine, God knows that Satan hates him, but at the same time, he can use him to build stronger people, stronger Christians, whatever. So that's kind of the attributes there.
Yeah, and that totally tracks. There's a certain amount of this allowed by the divine, and it's in order to help forge us into stronger or better people.
Right.
And you can choose, do I want to continue in the ways that obviously are not serving me and serving my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I make a change and rebuke these things and figure out what it is in my life, whether it's walking a spiritual path I wasn't walking before, whether it was strengthening my bond with my family, whether it was using my wealth or my ability to help others in need in service of the greater humanity. I think that is very clear in every case that I do.
So you could really say in all the cultures or most of the religions in the world, there's this central evil figure. Would you agree with that?
I'd say for the most part, like
Yes.
ancient Egypt, you had Set, who was kind of a chaos god. You know, like we talked about in the Hell episode, click here for that. There's obviously a Bodhisattva that was kind of like the ruler of their version of hell. So you can look at that as almost a satanic creature. There's examples throughout history and different beliefs of there being gods and anti-gods. So, you know, people from various cultures are looking at the same entity and just giving it different names. And Wizard, something else I thought was interesting in my research, and you could tell me if I'm wrong. Like, yeah, we see the Pan representation or Baphomet taken representation of the devil, but it seems like from my research, the Bible's mostly speaking about the devil or Satan as like a serpent or as a dragon, like in Book of Revelations. Like, I think it's a seven-headed dragon.
In various parts of the Bible, it talks about, but definitely in Revelation, it mentions that a lot.
There is a lot of lore behind dragons being shapeshifters as well, which kind of fits with the devil, like taking on the shape of various people or things.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there may be something to that. Plus, even the idea of the seraphim, which is what the angels were called, I believe that means fire serpent. So maybe the dragon thing is actually pretty accurate. Maybe that is what angels truly are, and we're made different.
It could be. In my opinion, I would tend to believe he does not look like that, being that he used to be the most beautiful angel. Now, we think of an angel as being some humanly looking figure with wings, and it can fly and different thing, glowing with white light and whatnot. Is that really what an angel looks like? I don't know. In the Bible, it mentions
Not according to the Bible.
It's really hard to say what they look like, but I do know this. What he was as Lucifer, he's been engulfed in sin and absence from God for so long that he no longer, I don't think he would be the most beautiful, shining angel anymore. Maybe he could portray that with his powers, but that's not his true primary image. You know, hate and anger, and some people can shrivel up their face. They're just angry, and just after so long, it can affect your appearance.
I know I got this frown line now that just will not go away because I'm just always stressed out.
Yeah. But there's also, I mean, a misconception with demons and the devil, and you probably experienced this in the field. To think that Satan doesn't have any power, you're a fool.
Yeah.
Now, God limits, he says what can and can't happen. He has full final authority. But if God were to ever lift his protection from a person, absolutely the devil can take you out. But they can't just go around and do that at will, obviously, but they're definitely very powerful. You know something I've learned, and maybe you can corroborate this in your line of investigations. Time doesn't exist for Satan.
Oh, yeah.
Or demons.
Yep, absolutely. Does not exist.
Waiting 2 years, 5 years to get back at you is no problem for them. It's kind of in line. I'm not going to mention the name of the show we've watched on TV. Many people watch it, investigators, where this guy goes and totally antagonizes demons and come out of there and get me and all this stuff.
Does he wear a tight black shirt all the time?
Yes, he does.
Then we know who it is. Okay.
Please, people, don't do that. Because I read a book, a guy who was angry at life. He started getting into paranormal investigating. And he started coming across demonic entities, and he started doing things like this. And, time went by, and he was like, man, I taunted these things. I told him, come and get me. Show me your power. Show me what you got. And nothing happened. And then 2 years later, this guy had just had a baby not long after that with his girlfriend. That child was hit with a car and
Yeah.
killed instantly. And it was a weird accident that shouldn't have happened, and it really didn't make sense how it happened. But he said when it happened, that statement he made 2 years ago, show me your power, came into his mind instantly.
Yeah.
So time is nothing.
You're playing chess with somebody who already has seen all of your moves and all of humanity's moves.
Mhm.
And so you're never going to outwit them. All you can do is trust that there's a divine course for things and that I am just a human being putting my foot into a realm that is vastly more powerful than I am.
Yes.
And I can't go in there and say, I'm casting you out. Boop, boop, got you out, Satan. That's not how it works. And
It's dangerous.
see a lot of people in this field go in like God's gunslingers and think that they're banishing demons. And every single one of them ends up getting their butt handed to them at some
Oh,
point.
yeah. But one thing that you can definitely keep in mind, and that's why, just like you just said, whenever you come in contact, you can't go in with guns a-blazing. You can really get into trouble, is to realize that this entity you're arguing with or trying to get into a verbal altercation with has been through this 5,000 generations of people.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything new that they haven't already seen.
Yeah. And I think of things like The Devil Went Down to Georgia, the song. I love that song, Charlie Daniels Band. That's a great song.
Yeah.
But there's no way that Johnny was going to beat the devil, especially knowing now that Lucifer was kind of a musician. So,
Yeah.
like, I just think if you're going to try to make deals with any entity, whether it be jinn, demons, Satan itself, just don't do it. There's
No.
there's no way you're going to foresee all of the down the road consequences
Right.
of whatever deal you're trying to make because you think you're smarter in that moment, or
Mhm.
you're so desperate that, like Job, he lost his children, he lost his flock, he had boils all over him. He could have easily gone and said, all right, devil, I'm with you now, but he didn't.
No. And that with the story of Job, it's believed that he got everything back, his children back, and all of his assets were doubled or even more than they were to the beginning because he was able to get through all of that. He did kind of anger God. He never turned his back on God in that story, but Job was like, why have you allowed this to happen to me? I don't understand. And this and that was art complaining, basically. He hadn't turned his back on God, but he was complaining a lot. And probably any of us would. And
Yeah.
God asked him this question. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Who do you think you are?
How dare you?
Job kind of came back to his senses and he finally repented. He's like, I'm sorry. And Job got everything back. That's correct.
That's kind of the equivalent to your mom saying, I gave birth to you and I could take you out of this world.
Yes. Yes. That's
You
the
know?
same idea. Exactly. But you can see that although Satan intended harm and destruction and death, and he was actually probably getting off on it, really enjoyed it. Never be mistaken. Satan absolutely hates your ass. In the biblical world, he absolutely hates you. All of you.
Yeah.
You, me, Tommy, everyone.
Even the people that don't believe in him.
Yeah, equally.
Yeah.
So why hasn't God just killed Satan and be done with him? Because he can use him.
Yeah.
I think he will be successful with some people to pull them down to hell with him in the end.
And if you don't like the idea of him being used, then look at him as the accuser, which is a member of God's legal team.
Yeah.
Who's allowed to come down and cause a little havoc so that it forces you to be better to earn your place with God.
Definitely. And has anyone ever had to exorcise actual Satan himself instead of just one of the demons? I wouldn't think so, because only God has an attribute called omnipresence. He can be multiple places at the same time. Satan cannot. He can only be at one place at one time. And I think with his resources or the powers that he has, I don't think he would want to waste it on one person. He did in the Bible with Job, but we don't know if he just sent demons to do the work, whether Satan was actually there doing the inflicting of the pain and the damage. I don't know, but
there's a lot of lesser demons just a term we use, that evoke the name of someone above their pay grade, but they're not someone above their pay grade. So
Right.
in terms of the cases I've done, I've definitely witnessed that as well.
It's definitely interesting, Tommy, to hear your take on the different things you've experienced and how other cultures see completely different than from the Christian religion. That's really cool. I enjoy learning that.
There's a lot more to learn, and we're going to uncover a lot more as we do these episodes and as we talk about various topics. However, for our viewers who wrote in last week, we've got questions.
Oh, yeah.
We've got questions.
All right.
This question is for you, Wizard, and it comes from One Jamie for Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Nice name. Obviously, we know this person's denomination.
Okay.
Do you think the devil is personally influencing all of the bad people on earth like he did to Eve in the Garden of Eden?
No, in the Bible it mentions that people themselves can be inherently evil. They have suffered wrath of God and various different things, that they themselves were evil, even outside of influence from Satan. But definitely, if they're down that path and a demon catches wind of it, they definitely could latch on and say, let's take this person down. So no, it's not always Satan doing all. You say all the bad things in the world, it's all Satan. No, not always.
That's a great answer. I love that. Next person asks me, Spirit Caller 777, have you ever encountered Lucifer during your cases? No, but I will say this, and this is kind of a tease for our episode on demons down the road. One of the worst cases I ever had was at the hands of some Luciferians who conjured something.
Oh, no.
That something was very dark and was very nasty, and is still, after 20 some odd years, one of the top 5 worst cases I've ever been part of. So
Wow.
I'll save that story for another time. Another question. This one's for Wizard. Fall for Me 21 asks, can the devil kill you at will? I think we talked about this, but let's make sure that Fall for Me 21 gets their answer, Wizard.
The answer is absolutely not. As powerful as he is, and that's the one thing we talked about, don't underestimate his power. He is extremely powerful, but he is not God. God is the ultimate in power, unimaginable, immeasurable power. Satan does not have that. There has to be a lot of thresholds crossed and permission given from God, and maybe even the person themselves have opened a few doors to get to that point. At that point, if God says, I'm through with this person, they have taken themselves down a path, they've turned their back on me, I release them to you, Satan. I really would be very scared if that was ever said to me, because then, yes, they can take you out of this world. But just because they wake up, I don't know that they sleep, but the metaphor is they wake up one day and decide, I'm going to kill Tommy. No, they can't do that.
And in some cases where we see possession cases ending in the death of a person, a lot of times that's just influencing the person to lean towards something that they wouldn't normally do, but that they kind of get pushed to. Or in the case of things like Anneliese Michel, which was a possession case in Germany, that exorcism may not have been handled properly. We could do a whole episode on that. So there's cases where stuff can happen, but it's, like Wizard said, unlikely that the devil's going to say, I'm just going to go snap your neck now. And that, I don't know why I said it so happy. That's weird. Sorry. No, it's not like the devil's going to come and snap.
He probably would be happy.
So one last question, Wizard.
Okay.
Insane 346 asks, did Jesus ever get tempted by the devil?
Absolutely, he did. And the fact that that Satan tempted him, I believe Satan believed there was an actual chance he could have turned Jesus away. Otherwise, he wouldn't have tried. He would have known this is a waste of time. I guess supposedly there could have been a chance that he could have tempted him away. But yeah, he tempted him. It was like 40 days in the desert. And he offered, he said, Jesus, if you will follow me, I will give the whole world to you. They will kneel to you. And obviously, Jesus was able to not be tempted and to sin. He kind of referred it to God. God is the only one I kneel before. I don't kneel to you. So yeah, he did try.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories, if I'm remembering it correctly, the devil handed him a rock and said, well, if you're hungry, turn this into bread and eat it.
Mhm.
And Jesus's response was basically, no, that's self-serving. I'm not going to do that.
He said that man does not live on bread alone. Yeah.
Before researching for this episode, I had only ever thought of the serpent in the Garden of Gethsemane.
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 Yeah.
I'll never pronounce that proper. Like, I don't know if that was just from The Last Temptation of Christ, the movie, or if that was actually in the Bible.
Join me. Join me. Together we'll rule the living and the dead. Satan.
That's when he was praying to the Lord. He was like sweating. He was sweating blood. He was
Yeah.
just stressed out, severely stressed out. Anybody would be.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be crucified, you have a right to be stressed out.
And thinking about how Satan tempted Jesus and how he responded to those temptations, it goes right along the line of the amount of power that God has. It's not even be able to be processed by our brains. He's so powerful that he doesn't owe you an explanation or proof of his power or a demonstration of his power. It doesn't even do any good. He knows how powerful he is. That's kind of how Jesus handled that. Throw yourself off a cliff, Satan tempted him. I don't owe you an explanation of this power that my Father has. So that's kind of the way, like you mentioned, Tommy, that's the way it worked.
Well said, Wizard. And I would like to give a segue to our next topic, but there just isn't one because, like I said, we're covering a lot of different stuff. Wizard and I are all over the gamut with what we want to talk to you all about. And so our next episode is actually going to be about aliens. Maybe not the xenomorphs from the movie.
Oh, no. Not again.
That'll definitely be a really good one. No, we're not talking about illegal aliens like in different countries, someone who's intruding and they're considered an illegal. We're not talking about those types of aliens.
Hot button topic. No, this is not clickbait here. This is pure education, pure fun. And I think you're all going to be surprised at just how many different types of alien beings are out there and have interacted with people.
That's going to be very interesting. And just like in the previous videos, we learned from each other. We learned doing this video for you guys. So it's really, really cool that we all can participate together and no arguing, no fighting. We all learned something really cool about different aspects of all kinds of different peoples and walks of life around the earth.
Except for when Wizard said I was going to hell, which is on this episode. If you click it above, you can hear him tell me that I'm not making it to the pearly gates, but it was all in jest. It's all in fun. And
yeah,
please, like, if you have comments, questions, put them down below in the comment section. If you like this video, give it a like, then subscribe, because we're trying to get this off the ground. And the more you all enjoy what we're doing, the more we are going to do it.
So hit the subscribe button, guys. There's so many more cool videos to come. There's so many topics. And that's a surprise. Each time a new episode comes out for you guys, you're going to have no idea what in the world it's going to be about. And you're going to probably mutter the phrase somewhere through the video. Can you believe that? Definitely hit the subscribe button, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thank you all. I'm trying not to move my hands so I don't do that. No, all right, fine. Bye.